Today we're diving into something that most men never get told directly. The 9 things you should absolutely never do with women. Not because it's politically incorrect, not because it's offensive, but because doing these things kills attraction, destroys respect, and puts you in a position where you'll always lose. Welcome to the channel, where we keep it real and cut through the noise. This video isn't about impressing women or playing some manipulative game. It's about helping you understand what completely turns a woman off, often without her even realizing why. Most men have no idea how their small behaviors, how they talk, how they chase, how they react, can sabotage them. Not because they're bad guys, but because they've been fed the wrong information. Society keeps telling men to be nice, to be available, to be emotionally open, but never explains how these things are interpreted by women in real-world dating and relationships. And that's why many of you are confused. You give your time, your attention, your loyalty, and somehow you still end up rejected, ghosted, or in a one-sided situationship. This video is going to flip your perspective, not by giving you some unrealistic macho fantasy, but by teaching you exactly what not to do if you want to be respected, desired, and taken seriously by women. Some of these will challenge everything you thought was right. Some will make you uncomfortable, but all of them are the hard truths no one else is teaching men. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right and still losing, pay attention. This is the reset you didn't know you needed. Let's break down the 9 things you should never do with a woman. If you want her to respect you, stay attracted to you, and never see you as just another nice guy. Before we start the video, I want to remind you that my exclusive online course on mastering the dating game is available now. If you've been learning from my YouTube videos, you're only scratching the surface. This course goes deeper, teaching you everything you need to know about the dating game, from approaching a woman to building real attraction. We just finished section 5 in the course, and you won't find this information on videos on my channel. It's easy to access with a secure payment option. Visit stoicapproachtolife.podia.com or click the link in the description to enroll now and improve your dating life. 1. Stop over-explaining yourself. One of the quickest ways to lose a woman's respect is by constantly over-explaining yourself. A lot of men fall into this trap without even realizing it. You say something, she questions it, and suddenly you're justifying every little detail like you're on trial. But here's the truth. The more you feel the need to explain yourself, the more you communicate insecurity. Men who are grounded in their decisions don't feel the need to explain themselves all the time. They say what they mean, and they stand by it. That doesn't mean being rude or dismissive. It means being clear and firm without needing validation. Now think about why most men over-explain. It's usually fear. Fear that she'll misunderstand. Fear she'll think you're a bad guy. Fear of rocking the boat. But here's what women actually feel when you start explaining yourself too much. They feel like you're unsure of what you just said. And if you don't seem sure, why should she trust or respect your words? Over-explaining makes it look like you're seeking approval or trying to manage her emotions. That's not strength. That's passivity. And passivity kills attraction. Let's say you tell a woman, "I'm heading to the gym after work." If she says, "Why can't we hang out instead?" The wrong move is to start rambling. "Well, I haven't worked out all week, and I already promised my friend, and I'll only be there for an hour, and maybe we can hang out later if you're free." What did you just do? You made it sound like you need her permission to do something that's already part of your life. That one moment tells her you're easily swayed. It tells her you'll drop your plans to keep her happy. And over time, she'll lose trust in your ability to lead, even if she doesn't say it out loud. The better move? Keep it simple and grounded. "I'm hitting the gym after work. Let's link up another day." That's it. Direct, clear, and no explanation needed. She might still be disappointed. She might pout. But deep down, she'll respect that you're a man who doesn't fold just because she pushes back. That respect is what keeps attraction alive. When you stop over-explaining, you stop giving off nervous energy. You start speaking with quiet confidence. And women respond to that much more than long-winded justifications. Bottom line, if you believe in your choices, own them. Don't dilute your words trying to soften the impact. The moment you start acting like a man who doesn't need to explain himself, you start becoming a man she can actually take seriously. 2. Don't try to impress her. Trying to impress a woman is one of the most common mistakes men make, and it's also one of the easiest ways to lose her interest. It sounds crazy at first, right? You'd think showing her how successful, smart, generous, or funny you are would win her over. But the moment you start trying to impress her, she can feel it. And once she senses that you're performing for her attention, she instantly knows she has the power. Women are naturally drawn to men who are centered, not men who are bending over backwards to prove something. The truth is, the need to impress usually comes from a place of not feeling like you're enough as you are. And women pick up on that faster than you think. Most guys don't even realize they're doing it. You start telling her about your new car, your job, how much you travel, how you're different from other men, because deep down, you want her to see your value. But here's what you're really doing. You're putting her on a pedestal. You're acting like she's the prize, and you need to earn her approval. That dynamic flips the power instantly. When you act like she's the one evaluating you, you're no longer the man in control of his own frame. You're playing her game. And even if she plays along for a while, she'll eventually feel the imbalance and pull away. What you have to understand is that real attraction doesn't come from what you say. It comes from who you are. Women are far more impressed by a man who is calm, grounded, and doesn't care whether or not she's impressed. It's counterintuitive, but it's the truth. She doesn't want you to act like a performer. She wants to feel like she's dealing with a man who already knows his worth and doesn't need to broadcast it. When you try to impress, you put pressure on the interaction. You overtalk, you overshare, you overdo it, and that kills the natural chemistry. Now think about the type of man who walks into a room and doesn't need to say a word. He's not bragging. He's not fishing for compliments. He's not desperately trying to hold attention. He's just being himself, fully and unapologetically. That kind of man doesn't try to impress women, and that's exactly why they're drawn to him. So if you catch yourself doing or saying something just to get her reaction, stop. Shift your focus. You don't need to sell yourself. Just be present, relaxed, and unapologetically you. That's where the real power is. That's when she starts wondering why you're not chasing her like everyone else. And that's when you become unforgettable. 3. Never apologize for being a man. There's a growing pressure on men today to constantly tone themselves down, to be softer, quieter, more agreeable, just to avoid making anyone uncomfortable. And somewhere along the line, a lot of men started feeling like they need to apologize for simply being who they are. Let's be clear. Being a man is not a problem. Masculinity is not a flaw. But the world will try to convince you otherwise. You'll hear people say things like toxic masculinity or men need to change. And if you're not grounded in who you are, you'll start believing it. You'll start shrinking yourself just to be accepted. And here's what happens when you do that. You lose your edge. You lose that natural energy that draws people in, especially women. Because no matter how much society tries to reshape things, the reality is this. Women are still deeply attracted to men who are confident, decisive, grounded, and unapologetically masculine. But if you walk into a room already apologizing for your tone, your posture, your presence, you're not leading, you're submitting. And a man who's constantly submitting to the world around him loses his ability to lead in his own life. The sad part is, this conditioning starts early. A lot of guys were raised being told to be nice, to never raise their voice, to never say anything too bold. So now, as adults, they second-guess everything. They're afraid of being too much, so they default to being less. But here's the truth. Less doesn't get you respect. Less doesn't get you desire. Less doesn't get you anywhere. Women aren't looking for a man who's walking on eggshells. They're looking for someone who knows exactly who he is and isn't afraid to stand in it. That doesn't mean being aggressive. That doesn't mean dominating people. It means owning your masculinity, without shame, without apology. You have instincts, you have opinions, you have desires. Stop hiding them. Stop watering yourself down to keep the peace. A real man doesn't need to be loud or arrogant. He just knows who he is and moves through the world without asking for permission. When you stop apologizing for being a man, something powerful happens. People start reacting to you differently. Women pick up on that energy. They see a man who doesn't need to prove anything or seek validation. And that's the man they want to follow, trust, and respect. So stand up straight. Speak clearly. Don't shrink back when your voice has weight. Masculinity isn't something to be embarrassed about. It's something to carry with pride. Because when you embrace it fully, you become the kind of man this world is starving for, but too afraid to admit it needs. 4. Don't prioritize her over your mission. This one hits hard because so many men don't realize they're doing it until it's too late. Somewhere along the way, they meet a woman they really like, and without even thinking about it, they start rearranging their entire life around her. Their focus shifts, their priorities change. The fire they once had for their purpose begins to fade, and before they know it, she becomes the center of their world. Here's the problem. The moment you make a woman more important than your mission, you lose your power. Not because she's the problem, but because you gave up what made you magnetic in the first place. Women are drawn to men who are going somewhere, men who are locked in, men who are focused. That energy is what pulls them in. It creates tension, desire, and respect. But once you start skipping the gym, blowing off your work, or putting your goals on hold just to make her happy, the energy shifts. You go from being a man on a mission to a man waiting for her validation. And deep down, she feels that. Even if she doesn't say anything, even if she acts like she loves all the attention, it chips away at her respect for you over time. Because no woman wants to be with a man who's lost his direction. She might like the comfort for a while, but without the masculine edge of purpose, she starts to feel the imbalance. As men, we're wired to build, to create, to chase something bigger than ourselves. That's not ego, that's biology. And when you abandon that part of yourself to chase a relationship, you don't just lose your drive, you lose your identity. You stop feeling like yourself, and she stops seeing you as the man she was once drawn to. Now, that doesn't mean you ignore her or treat her like she doesn't matter. It means your mission always comes first. Because when you're locked in on your purpose, everything else in your life, including your relationships, starts to align naturally. You lead. You provide direction. You're grounded in something bigger than temporary emotions. Women want to feel like they're a part of your journey, not the reason you abandoned it. When you prioritize your mission, you naturally set the tone in the relationship. She sees you're not going to crumble just because she's around. She sees that your life has structure, drive, and meaning, with or without her. That's powerful, that's attractive, and most importantly, that's how you keep your self-respect intact. So stay on course. Don't fall into the trap of making her the goal. Because when you do that, you stop being a man, and you start being a follower. And no matter how much she says she loves you, she'll never follow a man who isn't leading himself. 5. Avoid constant texting and checking in. If there's one thing that slowly kills attraction without you even noticing, it's the habit of constantly texting a woman throughout the day. Checking in, asking where she is, what she's doing, if she's okay, if she's still thinking about you. It feels harmless in the moment, like you're just showing interest or being attentive. But from her perspective, it often comes across as needy, overbearing, and even a little suffocating. Now let's be real, most guys aren't doing this because they're clingy by nature. They do it because they're afraid of losing her attention. They're scared she'll forget about them or start pulling away if they don't stay on her radar. But here's the part that most men miss. Mystery builds attraction. Space creates desire. Constant access destroys both. When a woman knows she can get your attention at any time, you stop being a challenge. And once there's no challenge, there's no tension. And without tension, things get flat, fast. You don't need to send good morning and good night texts every day. You don't need to double text her if she doesn't respond within 10 minutes. You don't need to keep a running conversation going like it's a full-time job. In fact, the more you do that, the more you look like you've got nothing else going on. That's not attractive. That's not masculine. That's just boring. Here's a simple way to look at it. Let your actions create presence, not your phone. Let's say you went on a great date with her. Things went well, there was chemistry, the vibe was solid. The next day, instead of blowing up her phone with, "Did you sleep well?" and thinking about you, just go about your day. Handle your priorities. Stay focused on your life. Then, maybe a day or two later, hit her with something simple and confident like, "Had a good time the other night? Let's do it again soon." That shows calm control. It shows you're not desperate for her energy. And she'll notice that. Because here's the truth. When you stop giving constant access to your attention, she starts wondering what you're doing. She starts thinking about you instead of trying to avoid your non-stop messages. You flip the dynamic. You stop chasing, and she starts leaning in. Attraction isn't built through convenience. It's built through presence, strength, and the right amount of distance. So stop thinking more texting equals more connection. That's not how masculine energy works. Show her that your time, your focus, and your presence are valuable, not something you give away for free. The less you check in, the more she checks for you. 6. Stop asking for her approval. One of the most subtle ways men give their power away is by constantly seeking a woman's approval. It doesn't always look obvious. Sometimes it's hidden in how you word a question, how you react to her body language, or how much you change your opinion just to match hers. But make no mistake, women feel it when you're doing it, and it changes how they see you. Seeking approval is really just another form of insecurity. It's like asking, "Is it okay for me to be me?" And the moment you need a woman to validate your thoughts, your decisions, or your behavior, you're no longer leading, you're following. And women don't want to follow a man who's asking for permission to exist. Let's be honest. Most guys do this without realizing it. You say something, and then quickly look at her face to see if she agrees. You share an opinion, and then soften it just in case she reacts badly. You suggest something, and then follow it up with, "If that's okay with you," or "but only if you want to." All of that is approval-seeking energy. And women don't just notice it, they respond to it emotionally. It creates a weird pressure, where you're putting her in the position of authority. You're saying, "Tell me if I'm good enough. Tell me if this is acceptable." And over time, that becomes exhausting for her. Not because you're a bad person, but because you're not standing firm in yourself. You've got to understand, attraction isn't logical, it's emotional. And when you give off approval-seeking energy, it emotionally signals that you doubt yourself, that you're unsure of your place, that you're hoping she'll validate you so you can finally feel confident. But real confidence comes from within, from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and not needing someone else to sign off on it. When you stop seeking approval, everything changes. Your tone gets calmer, your energy gets stronger, your decisions become clearer. And the way people, especially women, respond to you shifts almost instantly. You're no longer the guy trying to win her over. You're the man who already knows his value, and she gets to decide if she wants to be part of it or not. That's the mindset. Not arrogance, not ego, just solid ground beneath your feet. A strong sense of self that doesn't waver every time someone pushes back. You don't need to ask for permission to speak your mind. You don't need her to like every opinion you have. You don't need her to agree with every move you make. What you need is clarity and conviction, and the courage to live by them, even when it's uncomfortable. Because at the end of the day, the men who stop asking for approval are the ones who start commanding respect. 7. Never chase after she pulls away. This is where so many men completely lose themselves. A woman starts to pull away. She texts less, seems distant, stops initiating, and instead of standing firm, men go into panic mode. They start chasing, they call more, text more, try harder, get more emotional, all to fix something they don't even understand. But here's the truth. When a woman pulls away, the worst thing you can do is chase her. Because chasing her in that moment doesn't bring her back. It pushes her further away. It confirms her suspicion that you're desperate for her attention, that you're afraid to lose her, that your emotional stability depends on her presence. And that's not attractive. That's pressure. Men need to wake up to this. Too many guys give away all their strength the moment a woman acts distant. They forget who they are. They abandon their dignity. They stop living and start reacting, watching their phone, overanalyzing texts, trying to say the perfect thing to win her back. But you're not winning her back. You're just showing her that she has power over your emotions. You've got to stop doing this to yourself. You've got to stop giving so much energy to someone who's pulling away from you. Think about it. Why are you chasing someone who's actively creating distance? That's not love. That's insecurity. That's fear of rejection disguised as effort. And if we're being honest, a lot of men do this because they place way too much value on one woman. They build their whole emotional world around her. So when she starts to disappear, it feels like everything is collapsing. But here's the thing. It's not collapsing. You just forgot who you were before she came into your life. This is your wake-up call. Stop making women your emotional center. If she pulls away, let her. Give her space. Focus on your purpose. Keep moving. If she's genuinely interested, she'll notice your silence and feel it. If she's not, then chasing her wouldn't have changed anything anyway. It just would have prolonged your humiliation. You don't need to fight for attention that isn't freely given. You don't need to convince anyone to stay. A man who values himself doesn't beg. He doesn't chase. He observes, he adjusts, and he moves forward. Women aren't drawn to men who break down the moment things shift. They're drawn to men who remain centered no matter what. So stop trying to pull her back when she steps away. Let her feel the loss. Let her wonder. And let her come to the conclusion on her own. Because when you chase her, you give her the upper hand. But when you stand firm, you remind her, and yourself, that your value never depended on her response. Wake up, man. You're the prize too. Start acting like it. Most men are struggling in relationships not because they're weak, but because they've been conditioned to act like something they're not. They've been told to be soft, agreeable, and endlessly available. And every time they follow that script, they lose a piece of themselves. Let me say something that might upset a few people. A woman will test you 100 times, but she'll never stay with a man who keeps failing those tests just to please her. You think you're showing love, but she sees a man who can't hold his frame. You don't need to become someone else to keep a woman interested. You need to become more of who you already are. More grounded, more focused, more unapologetically masculine. That's what builds real respect. That's what keeps attraction alive. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What's the one mistake you've made from this list? Or what situation are you dealing with right now that's testing you? I check the comments, I respond to as many as I can, and I want to hear your story. This is a space for men who are done playing small and ready to lead again. We're not here to whine. We're here to rise, sharper, stronger, and smarter. If you're ready to become that man, let's keep the conversation going below.